Hello again, lovely people. This week I am here with what is kind of a book review, kind of a series review, spoiler free, so you can watch it if you've read them or not read them.
Sophie Vlogs.
That was very unclear. Let me clarify. I'm going to be talking about mainly The Watcher in the Shadows by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, but also this is part of a 3-book trilogy whereby they are not sequels to each other, but they, I assume, take place in the same universe, and there are some similarities. So, I have mixed feelings on the series as a whole, as well as the books individually, so I thought I'd just do a ramble, as is my wont, and sort of unpack where this feeling is coming from. Let's dive into it. So, for background, I'm a Carlos Ruiz Zafón fan. The Shadow of the Wind, excellent book. Love that book. Recommend it to everyone all the time. It's great. I did have mixed feelings on some of the sequels of that, but on the whole, love it. Big fan. Whew, great. So whereas The Shadow of the Wind is an adult book, the Niebla series are aimed at sort of a YA teen audience. They are the first books that he had published, unlike The Shadow of the Wind, whereby those books are all sort of continuing a thread in a story. These are 3 separate books that have something that kind of ties them together. I really enjoyed reading the first book of the series because it was everything that I liked about The Shadow of the Wind shrunk into a smaller, easier to read, less time-consuming little book. If you want to hear my thoughts on the individual first and second book in this series, I will include links to the book chats below where I talked about them. This time I thought I wouldn't just talk about this in a book chat, I would spend some time discussing it because I have such mixed feelings. Because as an individual book, I enjoyed this. The setup of this book is that this family, their father dies, so the mother and her older daughter, younger son, find themselves in financial difficulties, and then, like a stroke of good luck, this guy in this coastal town is looking for, like, a housekeeper. So that she's offered the job, she takes the job, they relocate. This guy is like an enigmatic toy maker. They go to his house and everything is like automatons and clockwork and toys and all of this stuff. So immediately there's a lot of really great imagery and there's a lot of really fantastic like ideas and stuff that are like running through this that's really cool. And then as time goes on, they start to realize that something weird is happening, and it's sort of down to the girl and this guy that she meets there to sort of figure out what's happening and stop some bad stuff from going down. So on an individual level, this was really enjoyable. When I take it in with the rest of the series, it kind of lost some of its enjoyability for 2 reasons mainly. The first reason is quite specific to this book, which is that this book seemed very similar to the first book of the series for me, both in characters and their relationships. So specifically, like for this one, like characters and relationships. So Irene and Ishmael in this really reminded me of, there's also another like teen couple in the first book. And they're both set by the sea, so there's a lot of similar, like, they go snorkeling and stuff. Like, there was just a lot of similarities between that. The other thing, which is the reason why I'm making this video, and is my whole truck with the whole thing, which is kind of a spoiler. So if you don't want any spoilers, then please disregard what I said at the beginning of this video about there being no spoilers and go about your merry life. I don't think it will ruin the books for you to have this knowledge. We'll see. So, leave if you want to. This is where I'm going to break forth. The main problem I have is that all of these books have the exact same plot structure, because the thing that ties them together is sort of like the big bad of each book is the same but different. In each of these books, there is a person who has done something which has caused this big bad to come into being. However, from that point forward, the exact same things happen every time. The big bad takes the same form in every one of these books. The way of beating him is pretty much the same in every one of these books. Like, it's the same story. And I love Carlos Ruiz Zafón. And I love, like, how each book has a different sort of focus and a different, like, thread that runs throughout it. Like, in this one, it's toy making. In the other one, there's this whole, like, trains and engineering stuff. And, like, all of that is lovely. But there is only so many times I can read the same story, just with a couple of differences in it. And I think that's what my fundamental problem is because I was mainly it's because I was expecting it to be like a trilogy, and I was expecting there to be like a continuing plot that would develop throughout the 3 books, whereas in actuality what I've got is the same book just playing out in slightly different ways in 3 books. And that's maybe not necessarily a bad thing if I'd gone in with that knowledge, but by this point, number 3, whilst there's all these lovely toy making things, and that's great, like, I know what they're going to do, which also means that by this point it's less scary. In the first book, there's like a whole clown thing that freaked me the fuck out. There is a moment in this that, like, freaked me out, but all of this suspense and horror that sort of comes from what's happening is kind of lost because I know what's going to happen. So that's not to say I'm saying don't read this series, because I do think he's a good writer. I think the language of this is very accessible. So if you've always been interested in reading The Shadow of the Wind but would like to, like, sort of try him out first before you commit to that, then these are a great way to do that. They're great books for teens to read because they're not, like, horrifying, but they are, like, suitably, like, gothic and mysterious and stuff, which is good. I just wish it was made slightly clearer. I don't know. I don't understand the thought process that went into doing all 3 of these. I find myself a bit perplexed. Still thought they were well written. Just, oh, so many mixed feelings. So much. I don't know anymore. If you have read these, let me know what you thought. Did that similarity bother you, or did you enjoy it? How did your reading experience compare to mine? I am confused. That's all I really wanted to say, to be honest. Just, like, brain dumping some stuff into a video. Hope to hear some responses. I don't know. Hope you're having a super lovely day, and I'll see you next week for something that's probably going to be, hopefully, slightly less confuzzled. Have a nice week.